Welcome, friends, to the From Busy to Rich podcast. This is a podcast designed to help advisors increase profitability and quality of life, but not just for yourself, for every person that you come into contact with. Wes, how are you today?
I'm fantastic, Andy. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to be with you. Justin joins us as well. If you are watching the video, you too can admire the mustache. Sometimes it's healthy to have goals, but I will never achieve that mustache, so I'm not even going to try.
We might do a whole podcast on the mustache too, because it's taken on several seasons and stages. If you've ever seen the Netflix Cocaine Cowboys, Justin looks like someone from that era right now.
Justin has been cast in the season 4 of
yeah.
So Justin, that will not be your new nickname.
Side of Cocaine Cowboys too.
I was going to say, Justin's new nickname is not going to be Cocaine Cowboy, but that's not appropriate. So, Justin, good to have you here. So we're in our last episode of our Practically Pretty series, and today we're going to talk about something that is foundational, fundamental, vital to running a great business and just having a good life, frankly. So, Wes, talk to us about what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. So in this one, it really is the kind of end cap to our series we've been in, Practically Pretty, 10 Truths to Make Your Business Beautiful. And I worry about this one a little bit, Andy, because I think when I say it, people are like, well, of course, come on. Of course that's there. But I don't think people have a good framework for it. And so there's a wonderful book that is the title of our last truth, and that is called Trust, and it's by Dr. Henry Cloud, and it's the subtitle is Knowing When to Give It, When to Withhold It, How to Earn It, How to Fix It when it gets broken. And it for me was so refreshing to kind of take this word trust, which I mean very few people would argue with the fact that to have a pretty practice with your team, there needs to be trust with the people that you rely on that are outside your team to help execute ideas for behalf of clients. There needs to be trust and that with clients, of course, there has to be trust. But I don't think people have a very good framework for evaluating whether to give trust, withhold it, in a given environment. At least I would say I didn't, and observing the lives of thousands of different advisor practices, I would say that I think we all need a tune up here to make this work.
I think this topic it sounds so simple, and it's sort of like when people say, in marriage, you just have to have good communication. I'm like, that sounds like such a neutral word.
Right.
And yet, it's not a neutral word, my friends, right? And so I think that the challenge that you who are listening might have is, do I really want to listen to an episode about trust? And it's because we've conditioned ourselves that you can't break that down. Either have or you don't, sort of like this nuanced thing. You can't really measure it, but it's there. And so today we're going to get really practical. And again, Dr. Henry Cloud is a phenomenal author. I know the book is solid, because anything he writes is solid. And he does take these very elementary things and he breaks them down and he says, okay, those are building blocks. It's almost like trust is so elementary that people think it's almost like an element, and that doesn't break down into other elements. It's just this basic thing, but that's not true. And so today Wes is going to help us break down trust to understand trust at a deeper level. So, what are the elements that make up this thing that we sort of take for granted?
Yeah. So there's 5 distinctions that Henry makes in the book. And I love these, and we're going to unpack each one, but let me just give them to you kind of rapid fire, and then we'll drill down. First is, do they understand me? Do they understand me? So in any environment where someone is asking you to trust them, one of the critical factors, do they understand me? Second is, what's their agenda? Third is, do they have the ability for me to give them this trust, to carry out what thing they're asking me to trust them in, because trust is contextual. Fourth, what is their track record? And then fifth, what does their personal makeup fit what I'm trusting them with?
So let me put a real simple example to this, and then we can dive into deeper things. And also, obviously, when it comes to advisors, if I'm going to go, and I've used this comparison before, but if I'm going to buy a car, do they understand me? I'm going to ask that question. And here's the other thing, and I think he talks about this in the book, if I remember this right. You ask all these things in like 10 seconds. Like all of these things are happening inside of you.
That's right.
Like that. It's not like, well, step one, do they understand? No, it's like inside of you, all these things were happening almost simultaneously. So do they understand me? If I was going to go buy a car and they said, you look like a Porsche guy, I would say, you look like a guy who doesn't pay attention. That's what I would say to that person, you know? And again, if you guys drive Porsches, ladies drive Porsches, God bless you. That's awesome. Drive your Porsche. I'm a Honda minivan guy. Like I just love me a good Honda minivan. I'm kind of excited that mine's breaking down because I want to buy a new one. They're just the ultimate vehicle for me. So do they understand me? That's the first question you ask. And if they don't, and here's the other thing I would say, Wes, and tell me if I'm wrong. If any of these things aren't in place, it's not always going to happen, but usually you're out. Would you say that's true?
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say it depends on the weight of what they're asking you to trust them with.
Sure.
But certainly you got to, especially the more like is at stake for any of these things being wrong.
Right.
You may have to glide into some of these. And I think we got some good practical ways to talk about it too.
Yeah. So first, do you understand me? If you don't feel understood, like you don't know what I want, you don't know my goals, you don't know my needs, no go. What's their agenda? I think it's, when people are desperate for a sale,
Mm-hmm.
When people, are, I think, being, duplicitous or they're hiding things. It's like what they're not saying, what's their agenda? Do they have the ability? Do I trust that they can actually help me, in what they're providing? Are they going to follow through? What's their track record? I think that's, that can be borrowed from a recommendation from someone else, or you just maybe let's, keep it simple. Do they have a track record? Well, they're still in business. So there's some degree of a track record, but also I've looked at reviews of things and went,
Yeah.
They have a track record and that's a no-go. The last one is, does their personal makeup fit what I'm trusting them with? We're going to have to dive into that one a little bit more. I think that's pretty nuanced. So let's go into these.
Yep.
And break them down even deeper for us, Wes.
Yeah. So let's talk about the person. Do they understand me? So we have hit this in a variety of different ways throughout our podcast, and we hit it in our courses because it's fundamental to the way we do our work as a holistic fee-based financial planning company. And you hear it because we love that Carl Richards definition of real financial planning. That real financial planning is about the alignment of the use of capital, time, talent, energy, money, assets with what you really care about. So fundamental to us being able to do a good job, if that is our belief system behind that's real financial planning, and we believe real financial planning helps people increase their profitability and their quality of life. And so if that's paramount, do they understand me? Do we understand them? Is a paramount thing with clients. Do we understand the story they're in about money? Where are they relative to the things that matter most to them? Because until I know that, really all the stuff that we can do, like strategies, tactics, products, I don't know. I just don't know what's going to be relevant. Now, the hundreds of thousands of combinations of those things. So on the client facing side, when you're working with people, fundamental question they're asking, whether they know it or not, is do they understand? And that's why our process is so deeply steeped in getting to that place of gaining understanding. And same thing with you. When I'm asking someone to, or they're asking me to trust them in something, whether that's, it could be a new hire that we have aboard our team. I want them to understand, hey, here is what we do as a mission and vision for this organization. Here's how we've gone about doing it and why it matters to us. Because until they understand that, they can have all these great ideas and strategies and tactics in the world. But unless they understand me, I can't trust them to help us carry the mission and the vision of the organization unless I'm clear on that. Does that make sense, Andy?
Yeah. And I think one of the other things is that, I remember I had an insurance situation and someone was talking to me about an aspect of it was a body shop I was working with to get my car fixed. And they were really, really focused on the speed of getting it done. And I think they were going to try to do something where like they were going to pad the thing so I didn't have to pay the deductible. It was cheating, the insurance company.
Okay.
And And they didn't understand me. They didn't understand, like, I didn't need my car that fast. They didn't ask me. They're like, oh, we'll get it to you super fast. I'm like, I'd rather you do it right and take longer. Right. And number two, I didn't ask you to cheat my insurance company out of my deductible. Now, you could offer that and I might go no, but they're like, oh yeah, we'll take care of that. I'm like, I think that's illegal. Like they didn't understand that I wanted quality work done.
Yeah.
And my credibility and my character was worth more than the $500 deductible that they were going to cheat the insurance company out of. They didn't understand me. And so you have to make the time and ask the questions and not make assumptions when you're working with clients, because I think a lot of advisors, especially the longer you're in the business, you can get kind of lazy in this area and you think you understand people. So Wes, what do you do to make sure that they feel understood?
Big part of that is the mission of the way we have our conversations with the client has to be steeped in the story that they're in and be able to wrap that in language and send that back to them. As an example, just from a process standpoint, one of the things we do in our first meeting with every client after we've had lots of back and forth conversations to say, so let me take a second just to say back to you what I think I heard you say was important. And really what I'm doing there, Andy, is I'm just trying to give them in language the story that they're in. And while most humans have kind of some common denominators that are important, like everybody wants to create a healthy income, and that's an income that's bigger than what they're consuming. They got some way they're doing that. Everybody wants to make and keep work optional, and they've got some way that whether consciously or by accident, they're trying to do that. And most people care about making a positive impact on their heirs. So I can say that, but then I can really just wrap it in the uniqueness of them, because then if they nod the head and I'm on the same page, then we can start going, okay, well then let's talk about what we need to think about next. Also the other way, when I'm with someone, whether it's somebody that's doing something for me, whether it's a CPA or an attorney or that is making recommendations, or a doctor, unless they understand my story first, I really don't trust those recommendations, because they've not really said, well, let's talk to me about what your end game here is. What are you trying to accomplish? And is it this? Okay, in light of that, we can take these things off the table. So and I think well-meaning people here, Andy, a lot of times, I saw this with managers for, a lot of different wirehouses that we've talked to and insurance companies and things like that they say, well, here's the thing you need to be selling or the thing you need to be doing. And they're not insincere. They're not evil, right? It's not none of that. It's just,
but they didn't ask you first.
They don't understand what are you trying to accomplish here?
Right.
And then let me say, of all the things we have available, what may be useful there. So sincere people, you don't need to necessarily give them trust until you can answer that question. Do they really understand me in what they're asking me to trust them with?
Yeah. And I also think it's dangerous to make the assumption that what you believe as an advisor is the most important thing is going to be the most important thing for them.
Absolutely.
Well, no, this is what you should be focusing on. And I don't want to get off on this tangent, but there are people that at a certain time were like crypto. Everyone should care about crypto. Yeah. It's like, listen, that might be interesting, but, and whether that was a good or a bad decision that's not the point. The point is that you cannot make your priorities your client's priorities. That's not how it works. And I would submit this, and I would ask you all who are listening to ask yourself, in your process, are you beginning the conversation and the trust building by asking them what's important? Or are you saying, here's what's important? Because I think that it's fascinating if you don't bring your agenda. One of my favorite questions to ask at the start of every meeting, and this is like routine 15-minute, 10-minute phone calls or is I will start the meeting with, what would be ideal for us to have achieved in the next 20 minutes? Like what would be just the best outcome? And I know what I want us to achieve. I know what agenda I have, but what if theirs is different? Right? Yeah. And if we start there, I don't trust people. I don't trust people who go into, here's what's important. Here's what you should care about. Even if they're right, and maybe I should, like, I want them to start with me. I want it to be my idea. Does that make sense?
Tell me how this is relevant to my story. And then I will gladly walk down that road with you. It's even funny on some stuff like recreational, right? I've got a friend of mine who loves to play golf, absolutely loves it. And he constantly is inviting me to go play golf, but he says, Wes, this is going to be so much fun. This course, you don't understand. And he'll go through the details and explain it to me. And here's the thing, Andy, I hate golf. And I know we may have lost some podcast listeners there, but I do. Hey, I'll sit with you in the cart. I'll, have a beer.
So, but let me interrupt, Wes. Let me interrupt. I think you don't like golfing, but you like fellowship. You like friendships.
There you go.
You like being outside.
There you go.
You like being in beautiful environments. Right. You like razzing your friends in a good natured way. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that you would actually go golfing. I'm putting quotes for those who aren't watching this on YouTube. If he was like, hey, Wes, you want to come hang out and just, give me crap for 3 hours and make fun of me and I'll pay for your lunch and your drinks and it's just a beautiful day outside. You'd probably be like, yeah, man. Oh yeah, we're going to be on a golf course. Like, whatever, dude. I don't care. I just want to hang out with you.
Yeah. Very different there. Because he understands I don't like golf, but I like the other thing. So that's very cool analogy there. But
we're going to go golfing, Wes, and you and I are just not going to bring any clubs. We're just going to drive around and park. And
that's perfect. And in fact, maybe we should just go to a hunting ranch and drive around with guns and do the same things we were going to do on the golf course. Now we have the opportunity to,
And you know what? I wouldn't bring a gun. I'd just be happy to hang out with you because I have very, very little experience with guns. But if you're like, you want to go hunting with me? I'm like, cool. Yeah. I mean, I don't own a gun. I don't really know how to shoot a gun, but I'll hang out with you. And you're like, cool, game on. Right.
Awesome.
So it's about getting to the yes, right?
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next one about, the next element of building trust is, you want to understand and clarify this for me. You have to understand what is the person who is trying to gain your trust. What's their agenda?
Yeah. Yeah. And, this is critical because here's the thing. Con men are very good at understanding you and your story and saying it back to you and then delivering on their own agenda. Bernie Madoff was, anybody that you could talk to about his Ponzi scheme, very good at being in the room with somebody and talking to him about, hey, you want to continue to have a life where you're creating revenue and money and you don't want to be worried about markets and being able to know when to get in and out. And we've got a great mousetrap here. And here's how we do it. And so, but his agenda was, I'm going to steal your money. That was it. I'm not going to invest in any of this. I just need it to supply me. Now that's an extreme example. But let's take it a step further. And again, I know this is touchy for a lot of people because there's good people who make their living this way, selling products and managing money only. But if the agenda is, I have to do that to continue to stay in business. Yeah. Then you just need to be aware of that. And and
that's fine. It's not a judgment upon it.
No,
it's not like, hey, to stay in business, I have to sell drugs. Yeah. That's bad.
Right.
Right. Like that's bad. But if you have to stay in business because you sell products and have to gather AUM, that's fine. But I think that a consumer is probably going to figure out at some point, hey, every conversation we have ends up with me needing these two things. And I think it's the same problem of, if you only get, I live in a neighborhood. We have a homeowners association and we had a management company at one point and they would get paid $10 every time they found a violation.
Oh, wow. What gets rewarded gets repeated. Right.
Amen. What gets rewarded gets repeated. So what's their agenda? Find a lot of violations. Right. Yeah. And so again, you just have to understand what's the agenda there.
That's it. And listen, good people who still, they're not going to necessarily always be driven by that, but you do need to understand, hey, what is the agenda here? And if the agenda is, look, I'm a curator of good ideas. And so understanding your story in light of that, here are the areas of planning I would focus in on. And our engagement, the investment for this engagement would be X. You're just very clear. They're going, okay, he's curator of great ideas. Now, of course, you'll still probably put product in place where it's necessary as a byproduct of the work and manage money. So I'm not saying that don't do those things, right? It's more of a, what's their agenda? And so when someone is, and you're deciding to trust them, it's okay. Do they understand me? And what is their agenda? And it's okay if like a person that's going to sell me a car, his agenda eventually is he'd like to sell me a car.
Sure. Yeah. That's clear. Yeah.
And I'm fine with that agenda, but I need to know it. Right.
And also I would say this on the client side before we move to the next one, Wes. Do you want to understand your client's agenda? Because if your client's agenda is, hey, I need you to double my money in 3 years.
That's a great point.
That's an important point to understand. It's like, well, there's this place called Las Vegas and you can go there and pick black or red. Yeah. And then that's probably your best bet there, but I'm not your guy for double your money. Right.
This is a really timely one because one of the things we've been looking at are rarely ever do we take on clients that were not engaged in a holistic annual retainer agreement with.
Right.
And the reason is because we just find they're so much more we're so much more effective with them and in helping them increase their profitability, quality of life. Occasionally we'll get somebody that says, hey, and really it's more on the money side than anything else. Hey, Wes, I don't really want to do all the planning stuff, but I have $1 million. Can you manage that? And we've made exceptions to that. So yeah, we won't do that in the past, but you know what happens is they because they're not engaging in the bigger conversations with us all year long, when markets move around, they're the ones that are first to go, oh my God, what are we doing? Well, we talked about the fact that markets move up and down. This isn't something that we run from. If your agenda was it goes up at a 45-degree angle, again, we didn't tell you that, but because we're not engaged in this regular rhythmic planning, maybe that's where you drifted to. So,
and it's also don't be surprised when that happens, because their only measure of their agenda is that one piece of their finances.
That's right.
So again, I think that part goes both ways. Justin, you have something to add with that one?
No, I think you guys are hitting everything that I would cover. The point is, ultimately, it's transparency. You don't go into a relationship, especially not if you're expecting anything long term.
That's a good word. Yeah. Transparency. I like that.
Like if you're dating somebody and you're considering engagement or marriage, there's things that you're going to want to talk about. Like, where do you want to take this?
Yeah.
Like, do you want kids? Like, that's kind of a big one. Like, just having that transparency up front. And each one of these that we're talking about are so easy to just bypass and not focus on, but will either be a hurdle that you deal with from the front, or it'll be something that you deal with every meeting after the point.
Yeah. And make it a selling point.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I need to make sure that I understand you. Like, I love this one when I talk to advisors, Wes, because, as in coaching programs that we run, like, they'll say, what do you do if a customer says, like, how much is it going to cost? Prospect says, how much is it going to cost? And the answer I love is, it would be irresponsible for me to answer that question, because I don't even know if I could help you. Mm-hmm. If I could not help you and I was going to charge you $5,000, would you want to do that? No. Okay. But if I can show you some strategies that are going to help you save $250,000 over the next 10 years, would you pay $10,000 for that?
Yes.
Probably. So how much do I cost? Maybe you shouldn't pay me at all. Maybe I can't help you. You'd be a fool to give me a nickel.
Yeah,
I'll take a free lunch, right? But,
right.
but if I can help you, then how much would you pay? So I have no idea. Right. And so again, it's understanding the agenda and saying, hey, I want you to understand me. I want you to, I want to understand you. I love the word transparency there. The next one is, do they have the ability? Let's jump into this one real quick. This is hard because if someone's new, if someone's younger.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know any advisors who are in charge of the stock market going up and down.
Right.
So what does it mean when you say, the person is asking, does this advisor have the ability for me to work with them?
Yeah.
What are they?
This is one of my favorites, because this is where people they are often not competent judges of themselves in what they're committing to. And I'll give you some examples here. So one example is if I have to like I just had a crown put on my tooth at the dentist office, and I've been going to my dentist a long time, of course, but if I'm with my dentist and he says, Wes, look, you need a crown on this tooth, and here's why. And I say, okay, no, great. Sounds good. He goes, cause he understands my story, right? He understands, hey, Wes, it's sensitive over there. You want to be able to eat again without going, oh God, that hurts. And I know he's going to get paid to do it, but he's like, this will make your life better. And so his agenda, I'm cool with that. And then he says, yeah, and Wes, I'm so excited about doing this because I've never got to do one before. This will be like my very first one. So we're going to learn together on this. At that point, he may have it figured out, but it's the ability. I can't trust his ability because he doesn't have any experience.
Exactly. So I would say this: if you're a new advisor and you're like, well, dang it, that's me.
Yeah.
I haven't done a lot of these, or I haven't. Let's stick to planning. Gosh, how am I supposed to tell people that they should pay me $5,000 for a plan when I've never done planning? It's one of my first ones. And I think this is where you partner with people, right? This is where you find other people that have done a good job. I think about people that came onto your team, whether it be Justin or other advisors, that at some point they had to say, we do planning. And unless they'd done planning beforehand, with coding and things like that, but it's like, they had to say, we do planning.
Right.
Right. It's like, well, and I'm 5% of that. Right.
Yeah.
You don't say that, but that's where you can say, do you have the ability? If your dentist would say, listen, we're going to do a crown, and great news is, we have our area's best person who does this, he's a leader and yada, yada, yada. And, he will supervise this. He's going to be present, and, our team is going to do that.
Yeah.
He did not say, I don't know how to do it, so I have to have someone with me, even though that might be true.
Right.
The point is, if you have the ability, if you don't have the ability, then someone there has to have the ability. And that's where, whoever you're listening, you might have to lean on, hey, our company's been doing this for 100 years, or we use this company to do this thing. And all they do all day long is think about, annuities. And so, they've been doing annuities since annuities were made. Okay, cool. But don't say, I've been doing annuities for 75 years. No, you haven't, because you're 54.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It is that constant, and for our own selves too. I think that's a beautiful way to put it, because if you're asking someone to trust you, you're going to have a whole heck of a lot more confidence if you've got a team of people that you get to sit alongside with that have done this one thing over and over and over again. And you go, yeah, no, we're great at this. Here's how we set it up. And so you don't always have to be the guy, right? But if it just has to be a part of the team, which is why I love the multi-team approach, where you've got lead advisors and you've got project managers that can get the ability really quickly, as long as they are learning alongside someone else. So
that's a who, not how, right?
Yeah. And the other example I'd give is this. Okay. I see this one a lot. I've experienced this one before. Someone you love, you get along with well, they understand your story. Their agenda is, man, we're in it. Let's just go into business together. Let's make some money together. And you're really good friends and you're excited about it. And then you get in there for a year and you go, oh, he didn't have the ability to execute upon the things. And it wasn't because he was lying to me. He just wasn't competent in assessing his own capacity. Yeah. So being competent, and like to be very trustworthy with people too. Yeah. Competent in assessing your own capacity to do something. And it doesn't mean you have to have done it a million times. It means you have to have the resource that has, and that's really good at it, and that you can go to for this.
Yeah. Ability is important. I mean, this is where some people will get by because they're likable, or they're winsome, right? Or they project this thing. But can you do it?
Yeah.
Right? All right. Last two, what's their track record? Pretty straightforward. Again, you can borrow the track record of the company you work with. You can borrow the track record of other experts. So if you sign someone up for planning, and you say, listen, let's do a review of your property and casualty insurance. And they're like, oh, I didn't know you were licensed in property and casualty. And your response would be, I'm not. That's not my area of expertise, but I have someone, and they wake up every day and that's their passion and love. And so I'm going to have them review it. And then I'm going to take those recommendations and I'll bring them to you.
Right.
Oh, okay. So what's their track record? You can borrow the track record of other people, and then, keep track of and build your track record over time of things that you have done. But yeah, we're going to ask ourselves, what is their track record? Right.
And a great example of this, Andy, is we just went through a transition of a longtime CPA that we worked with for many, many years, transitioned to they sold the practice, transitioned to a new person. And I met the new person, the new guy, and he was a great guy. And I could tell, he understood me, understood our practice because it was well transitioned. He understood, I understood what his agenda was, is, hey, here's how we operate, just like, so-and-so used to operate. And he had the ability, because when I would ask him technical questions, when we would look at how things are working, he could do the work really well. The issue is his track record. Something started to emerge in that with me very shortly, like very poor communication. Like we would communicate and say, hey, when is this going to be? When can we expect to hear back from you on this? Well, one is sometimes he wouldn't respond to that for 3 or 4 days. That's not good for me. Or if he would respond with the date, he would miss that date. And now when he would do the work, it was right and it was accurate. But the problem is your track record, I can't trust you with client relationships because I just know the communication here is going to be so bad. People are going to get upset, and they did. And so that's where you've got to look at that. And it doesn't mean that, again, we can't fix that, but a track record is a pretty important thing to giving you an indicator of what future results are going to be like. And people can fix it. They can change. You should talk to them about it, but it doesn't mean you trust immediately. It means we got to slowly fix this. And here's how we'll start that process.
Last one, does their personal makeup fit what I am trusting them with? This one I think is confusing. Clarify.
Yeah, I love this. So listen, if you have people in life that deal with stressful, like hectic,
I see.
situations.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you don't want a panicked fireman.
Yeah.
Fire. Oh my God, what are we going to do?
Or like, you, Justin, as an example, had to deal with a lot of very stressful, difficult situations, as a Green Beret. And now I would consider Justin, he's a different kind of Green Beret than most in that sense. But, there was a time where, there's certain things that he was just the right guy to run through that door or to go do these things that other people who I like, who are honest and very good, just like Justin, very honest, very good, their personal makeup did not allow them to do that job well. Yeah. It was but sometimes that same type of person, not necessarily Justin, but sometimes it's the same type of person. We use Preston because I had this conversation with Preston on our team the other day. Preston's very good at getting stuff done. But if my dog dies, I can't trust Preston to help comfort me in that situation because
what would Preston say? What would Preston?
Dog.
I'll be you. You be Preston, man. And he says, "Hey, Wes," and you'll say, "Man, I'm not doing well. My dog died." What would Preston say?
Go get another dog. I need the answer. I promise. And he's like, "Can we move on from this?" He's like, maybe he'd say, "I'm sorry. Can we get another dog?" It's just,
sorry. I bet that was expensive. Dang,
yeah.
Sorry, bro. Should have had insurance. You could add pet insurance. That's kind of dumb.
What's that cost? Going to big bonuses? What's going to be the? No, but he's really good at the things that I trust Preston with, and so and the same thing with me or you is like, just what's your personal makeup? Because there's jobs that you could do it. Your personal makeup's going to make you hate it because you're built in a way where that job's just not right for me. So.
I love that summary, and we'll wrap with that. That job's just not right for me. And so you want to work with people, and like that's the right job. Like some people, you want a dorky, geeky, numbers oriented, unemotional, just find the solution. And other people, you want very empathetic, right? Very understanding and slow. And some people, it's like, no, I need you to kick down that door, even though someone's shooting through it. And that's Justin. God bless you, Justin. So, again, do they understand me? What's their agenda? Do they have the ability? What's their track record? And does their personal makeup fit what I'm trusting them with? And so those are the core elements of trust. I would encourage you to check out Dr. Henry Cloud's book, Trust. And frankly, I would just encourage you to look at his Amazon page, and any book that has any topic that you think is interesting that he's written about, buy it. He is an incredibly smart person, and very well balanced on the practical and emotional side of all things. I'm a better human being for having read Dr. Henry Cloud's books and watched his videos and such. So I'm going to give the last word to you, Wes.
Yeah, no, I think trust is critical. Now hopefully this gives you a framework which you can quickly check the boxes on certain things, and certain things that are heavier. Clearly you're going to want to go deeper. Things that are lighter, it's not necessarily, you got to like dig into each one of these to, know if it's good to, eat food at a restaurant. But if you're getting a spouse or you're, hiring a new person, you might want to dig a little deeper into some of these ideas as it relates to the interaction and as it relates to how you communicate with clients.
Thank you, Wes. And so that's going to wrap up our Practically Pretty series. I want to encourage you to go to wesyounglive.com. If we have established and built some trust with you, then I want to ask you to take that trust, go to wesyounglive.com and find some things there that will help you. It's our heart and it's our mission to have you increase your profitability and the quality of life for you and for those around you. So go to wesyounglive.com, and that's a great place for you to invest in yourself and those around you. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.